Breaking news out of the U.S. U.S. President Donald Trump says Washington has completed, quote, very successful attacks on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, and says Tehran must now agree to end its war with Israel. The president will address the nation in about an hour. Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan nuclear facilities were targeted by U.S. forces. Mr. Trump detailed that the strikes included American planes dropping a payload of bombs on the primary site, Fordo. U.S. officials say B-2 bombers had been involved in these attacks. They are the only aircraft capable of carrying the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, which has been highlighted as the only type of bomb capable of destroying Iran's underground Fordo nuclear facility. An Israeli official said Israel was notified by the Trump administration in advance of the U.S. strikes. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi had previously said it would be, quote, very unfortunate and dangerous for everybody if the U.S. joined Israel in its aggression. For the latest, Nick Harper joins us live from Washington, D.C. Nick, what happened to waiting 2 weeks? What triggered Mr. Trump's decision to strike now?
Well, Ronnie, that's unclear at the moment. But yes, of course, Donald Trump on Thursday afternoon was telling the American public, Israel, Iran, the world, that he would make his decision within the next 2 weeks. But here we are, just over 48 hours after that. It's about 9 p.m. Saturday evening time here in Washington, and Donald Trump has gone ahead with military action against Iran. There had been some expectation that he may try and wind down the clock on that 2-week period and use it as an opportunity to try and push the Iranians to the negotiating table, hanging that threat of aerial bombardment over Tehran. The thinking was that perhaps he would use that as a bargaining chip to try and get Iranian officials to not just agree to a ceasefire, but agree to a longer-term deal that would see the end of uranium enrichment. But Donald Trump has decided to go, in his words, go ahead and bomb 3 Iranian sites, all of them nuclear facilities. It's not exactly clear what has prompted this. There may have been some US intelligence, or it may simply have been a case that the Iranians were showing no signs of moving to the negotiating table. Whatever the answer is, Donald Trump has surprised the US public, Israel, and probably Iran as well, going ahead with these strikes at a weekend in that 2-week period, much earlier than many people were even expecting.
Nick, we understand that Mr. Trump did not get congressional approval for these strikes on Iran. What's been the reaction to that so far, and what are the potential implications of this?
Well, that's right. There's been a real push during the course of this week from both Democrats and some Republicans to try and push forward some bipartisan legislation, which would have meant that the US president had to get congressional approval before carrying out any strikes. That was something that was being discussed in the background. It was not presented to either the House or the Senate. It certainly wasn't voted on, but we will likely see many Democrats and some Republicans who are very angry that the US has gone ahead with this. A real schism within the Republican Party has been created as a result of this issue, the potential military action in Iran. We've seen some of the MAGA crowd, the Make America Great Again crowd, who are staunch supporters of the US president, breaking with him over the last few days, telling him that he should not attack Iran, saying that it's not in America's interest, that the US should not be getting involved in Middle East conflicts. But of course, on the other side of the aisle, we have seen some Republicans, the defense hawks, saying that it's time to alliance themselves with Israel and carry out these attacks. Just a bit of reaction that we've already seen popping up on social media in the last few minutes. Lindsey Graham, a staunch supporter of the US president, a top senator, has said simply, good. This was the right call. The regime deserves it. Well done, President Trump. And the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, also a Republican, says, I stand with President Trump. It will undoubtedly divide lawmakers, but also the US public. Polling this week suggested the vast majority of Americans did not support any sort of action in Iran.
Nick, we understand that Mr. Trump will address the nation in about an hour's time. What do we know about what he's going to say? How could the U.S. be preparing for potential retaliation from Iran?
Well, in terms of his message, I think we will see something of a balancing act from the US president, very similar to the statement that he put out just 30 minutes or so ago, a bit longer than that. He said in that statement that the US had carried out attacks, but he ended that statement writing in all capital letters, "Now is the time for peace." The suggestion being from that statement, which we might see followed up in that address from the White House, that yes, the US has carried out attacks, but that is the end of it. It's hoping to draw a line under it and push Iran to the negotiating table. No suggestion in that statement, but we might see from the US president a different message when he speaks very shortly, that the US intends to carry out any further attacks. But in terms of the US assets, the US troops, the US bases in the region, all of this now opens them up to the potential retaliation from Iran. We know that the US has been moving troops, including an aircraft carrier, to the region from the South China Sea over the last few days. All of those bases and the troops there positioned could now find themselves on the receiving end of retaliatory strikes from Tehran. Up until now, Iran has been striking Israel. With the US getting involved, it could mean that the US targets, the bases, the troops in the region are now fair game when it comes to Iran and thinking about where it should target next.
Thank you, Nick, for those updates. That was Nick Harper reporting live from Washington, D.C.